A very warm welcome to everyone for joining the virtual open house for the School of Chemistry, Chemical Engineering and Biotechnology, CCEB, for the course of Bioengineering, BIE, as well as Chemical and Biomolecular Engineering, CBE. So our event will begin shortly. Meanwhile, you can scan the QR code to join our CCEB Linktree and to find out more on our future event. So please be reminded that this session will be recorded. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. So once again, welcome to the Virtual Open House 2022 for the School of Chemistry, Chemical Engineering and Biotechnology. Our event will begin now. So I'm Li Qing, a Year 2 CBE student, and together with me, Nicole.
Hi guys, my name is Nicole. I'm a Year 3 Bioengineering student.
And Singni.
Hi guys, everyone. I'm a Year 3 student in Bioengineering.
So we will be your host for today. So this is the overview of the program for today. So shortly after this, we will have our professor sharing, student live sharing, followed by Q&A session with our alumni and student ambassador in the breakout room. So let me first introduce Professor Raymond Lau. You'll be sharing on our BIE, CBE, and second major offer in our school. Prof. Raymond, please.
Okay, thank you. So just give me some time to do the sharing. Okay, so so today I'm going to do a sharing on the programs that we have to offer in the School of Chemistry, Chemical Engineering and Biotechnology. So formally, we are called the School of Chemical and Biomedical Engineering. So after name change, we becomes a mix of both the College of Engineering School as well as the College of Science School. But in this sharing, I will be mainly focused on the two main programs that are offered in the College of Engineering, which is the Bioengineering program and the Chemical and Biomolecular Engineering program. So, I mean, just to give you a little background, you might have heard on the news about the joint school of the CCEB. So essentially, previously we have School of Chemical and Biomedical Engineering, and we have the two engineering programs that were housed in the School of SCBE. Then the university also has a lot of discussions and look at, say, the division of chemistry and biochemistry. So in a lot of the recruitment drive or admission exercise, we find that there are a lot of confusions as well as questions asking what is the difference between chemistry and biological chemistry with the chemical and biomolecular engineering. So in the mind of the public, so sometimes they cannot differentiate the two programs. But at the same time, we do see a lot of synergies in them. So that's why last year, the university have decided to have this joint school. So from August onwards, then we will have 3 programs that are housed within the School of CCEB. And essentially that will still be remaining as bioengineering, chemical and biomolecular engineering, as well as chemistry and biological chemistry. So just now I mentioned that most people probably would not know the difference between the chemistry and biological chemistry with chemical and biomolecular engineering. So in simple words, it is mainly the difference between science and engineering. So for science, the students will be studying about the chemical reactions, the chemistry. They would learn about how it happens, and they might even want to develop some new reactions to develop new products. But in chemical and molecular engineering, we are bringing this new knowledge that are developed by the scientists and provide it in a way that we can utilize in the real world, as in we'll be producing the products that are the results of these new reactions or new pathways. So in that case, you can look at it as engineering would be the more applied portion of the chemistry. So the same thing would also be applicable to bioengineering as well. So what is the difference between bioengineering with biological sciences, for example? So again, if we are in an engineering field, we are more focusing on the applied portion of the knowledge that we have learned. So with the joint school, of course, the added benefit is that now we would have access to both science courses as well as the engineering courses, which essentially will be strengthening the fundamental knowledge as well as applied knowledge for both engineering as well as the science students. So now go back to the engineering programs that we have to offer. Since as an engineer, after graduation, many would be working in companies. So essentially, it is quite important for students to be able to know how they can utilize the knowledge they learned in school in the industry. So we will be focusing quite widely in the broad-based industry-centric curriculum. By this, it's not just saying that, oh, we will give you examples about the potential applications, but at the same time, we would be inviting industries to give you various extent of knowledge from year 1 all the way to year 4. So for example, for year 1, we would have the industry partners and speakers to come in and give you some background about the landscape of the particular industry in Singapore. And then in year 2 and year 3, we can have guest lectures to talk about the relevance of a specific topic in their company. And in year 4, we also have case studies that are offered by companies to show you what is it like to solve a real-life industry problems. And this would be something that you can really see the difference in an academic setting as well as in the industry setting. And of course, we can't talk about industry-centric without attachment. So in year 3, semester 2, so all our students will be attached to a company and essentially do a certain work that is of relevance to the major that they are studying. And in terms of teaching, we have quite a number of top-notch professors. So we do believe that what you're studying is not just the textbook knowledge, which you can essentially get from a lot of the online resources nowadays. But at the same time, we hope that while you are learning from the professors, you can get a chance to interact with them and also inspire with them with the thinking, the thought process that they have gone through, so that you can actually learn to be able to think in a more independent manner. And as I mentioned, we have quite a number of industry speakers, and it can be varied from a small 1 or 2 hour settings, or it can be that these industry speakers will be teaching the entire course, depending on what knowledge it is referring to. So NTU has launched this ICC curriculum, which stands for the Interdisciplinary Collaborative Core. So what it does is that starting from year 1, the students will start to take courses together with students from other disciplines. So you're not just taking the course with engineering students, but you can be taking these courses with humanities students, with science students, with maybe communication students, business students, such that you learn to communicate in a more broad manner. So you're not just using technical jargon, but instead you will try to pass message across to many different disciplines. The main reason of this is because when we talk to the potential employers, many of them do not really pay a lot of focus on the technical knowledge, because they all assume that by the time you graduate from the university, you would have good enough technical knowledge. So instead, they are looking at a lot of the soft skills, the management skills, the communication skills, which is why it is beneficial to have this interdisciplinary collaborative core. And at the same time, we're also having another option that is quite different from the past, is that we have this broadening and deepening electives. So we call it broadening and deepening in the sense that we give the flexibility to the students. So you can decide whether you wanted to broaden the amount of knowledge that you learn in the university. So you can use this to take as many variety of courses as you want to and as you are interested. But at the same time, if you already have identified your interest and maybe the discipline, the industry you want to get into, then you can also choose these options to deepen it. So you will take a lot of courses in the same category, so you will have a deep knowledge in a particular area. So this way, you get to control what kind of knowledge you wanted to learn. So it's not a one-size-fits-all conditions. Okay, so I mentioned about internship. So we do work with a lot of the multinational companies who have their existence in Singapore. So these are just a snapshot of what these companies are. And essentially, we have a career and attachment office that helps you to look for these positions, and all you need to do is apply. But of course, if you do have specific companies that you want to work with, you can also go and source for these positions on your own. So these would be something I would probably clarify a little bit more. So with all the three programs, the BIE program, CBE program, as well as the CBC program, they are all direct honors, meaning you will be just getting your honors based on the GPA that you achieved. But at this point, what is important for you to decide is that the different options that you need to select at this juncture of admission. So when you decide on which program you apply to. So I want to highlight, essentially, there are four main categories of programs that you will have to decide at this moment. So for one, it is the single degree program. So if you are interested in a particular program, of course, a majority of you would probably be in this particular category. So for example, you'll be doing a single degree program in bioengineering, or you'll be doing a single degree program in chemical and biomolecular engineering. But let's say if you have more bandwidth and you wanted to learn more, then you can enroll in a second major program. So second major program typically would involve 5 to 6 additional courses compared to the single degree program. But you can still graduate in 4 years' time. I'll introduce the number of options that you can have for the second major. Now, the next thing is the double degree program. So the difference between double degree program and the second major program is that the double degree would require 5 years to graduate. And right now, the only double degree programs we have will be BIE with economics or CBE with economics. So to graduate in 5 years, you'll be able to obtain 1 certificate for your engineering degree, and you'll get an additional certificate for economics. But it does take 1 additional year for you to graduate. And then for the Premier Scholars Program, we have 2 of them. So one would be the CN Young Scholars Program, which focus on the development of future scientists. So their curriculum would be a good combination of both science and engineering subjects, and you'll be exposed to research environment starting from the very first year. And then another one is the Renaissance Engineering Program. So for that, it is a 4.5-year program which combines engineering with management. So essentially, for the second major, the Premier Scholars Program, as well as the double degree program, we would only accept the students at the point of admission. So meaning, if you're interested in these programs, you will have to indicate in your application. You cannot go from a single degree after 1 semester or 2 semesters, then you wanted to change to a second major or double degree program. You cannot do that. But on the other hand, when you are accepted into the second major or double degree programs, and if you wanted to switch back to a single degree program, it is possible. So if you think that you have the interest and you have the bandwidth, I would suggest that you will always shoot for applying for this second major double degree as well as the Premier Scholars Program. Now for minor and specialization, this is something you can decide at a later time. So typically after 1 or 2 semesters, you will start to be able to take your the broadening and deepening elective courses. Then with these courses, you can choose to do a specialization that is more related to your main degree. For minors, it's something similar, except that minors is typically on the subjects that is not directly related to your single degree. So I'll show you a list of these minor courses. But minor is something that you can declare at the point of graduation. So you don't have to decide your minor at this juncture. So there are 2 new second major programs that is launched this year. So one is a second degree in data analytics. So we do see that there are a lot of interest in data analytics, and many of the companies, they are also digitizing their processes. They have a lot of data that are present. So it is important for engineers to be able to make use of these data and help with process improvement, help with the reduction of waste. So what is different in this data analytics compared to the computer engineering is that since we are doing this as a second major with engineering, so that means when you are applying this data analytics, you will have a context that you're applying to. So you know the process or the development that you are paying attention to, be it is about medical engineering application or the chemical engineering application. You are applying the tools that is specific for the applications. But on the other hand, for computer scientists or computer engineers, what they are looking at, because they do not have the domain knowledge in the engineering application, so they would be primarily developing the tools that are used by these engineers. So, so these would be one of the options that you can have if you are interested in the data analytics. Another one is the second major in entrepreneurship. So Singapore relied quite a lot on foreign investments to set up their manufacturing facilities in Singapore, be it the chemical industry, biomedical industry, as well as the pharmaceutical industry. But at the same time, we cannot forever rely on these foreign companies. So what if one day they decided to pull out of the manufacturing scene? So it is important for Singapore to grow their own industry, to grow their own homegrown companies. So in this case, how do we actually formulate a startup? So we don't have a Silicon Valley here, but we do have a very strong drive from the governments to promote the setup of Singapore startups. So this entrepreneurship program essentially is bridging this gap, because a lot of the startups, they are relying on technologies that are developed. But then most technology developers, they may not have the knowledge of business. They may not have the knowledge of how to run the company. So this entrepreneurship second major program essentially would be the one that is complementing the technology developers. We also have some of the other, I guess, more traditional second major programs. And one of the more popular ones would be the second major in business. We also have a second major in pharmaceutical companies, which is only available for the students in the bioengineering program. So what we see is that a lot of our bioengineering graduates, after graduation, they are indeed working in the pharmaceutical industries. So it will be good for them to know about the processing and the manufacturing of pharmaceutics. And in fact, Singapore is also the home of 8 of the top 10 pharmaceutical companies in the world, and they are all having their manufacturing plants in Tuas. And the last second major programs will be the food science and technology. So we can consider that Singapore has more or less solved the water security issue. So the next issue we wanted to solve would be on the food security. So food security, it's not just about the manufacturing of food products, but also relating to the food safety, as well as the processing of food. So in this, we're collaborating with Wageningen University from the Netherlands, which is the top university in the world in terms of food science and technology. So something that would be of your interest would be how our graduates actually were doing in the last year. So this is the latest statistics that we have that was published just past Wednesday. So for bioengineering students, the top industry that our graduates go into is indeed the pharmaceutical and biological product manufacturing, followed by the medical instrumentation, healthcare, defense, and also the research and development. So the most common job titles that they get would be biomedical engineer, quality control engineer, quality assurance engineer, medical and pathology laboratory technicians, and so on. So the reason why I'm listing all this is that I would encourage you to go do a Google search, go to any of the job search websites, type in these job titles. So usually what you would find is that there will be accompanying descriptions on what the company are expecting you to do with this kind of job title. So if you're undecided or you're not sure whether you want to take up the program or whether this is for you, this actually would be a good indicator. So take a look at the descriptions and see if you can foresee yourself doing that kind of job. So in that case, that can help you do a more informed decision in selecting the programs that you want to apply to. And in terms of salary, the mean salary is 3,600 or so, and the employment rate is more than 90%. And essentially, about 98% of the students would have gotten their job within 4 years after graduation, and 40% of them would even receive multiple job offers. So similarly, for the chemical and biomolecular engineering, the top industry that hired our graduates would be the electronic products in the past year, and then followed by the pharmaceutical and biological product manufacturing. Some of them also went to the information and communication, as well as finance and insurance. So similarly, I have listed a number of job titles. I would highly encourage you to actually do a search on these job titles to look at what is it like to be a production engineer, or what is it like to be a manufacturing engineer, for example. We have quite a similar employment rate for the CBE graduates, 91%. The mean salary is somewhat higher, mostly because for those companies who hire CBE graduates, typically they are the multinational companies. For bioengineering, because we do talk about startups, so startups, they would be working on a tight budget. So essentially, the mean salary is slightly lower for bioengineering graduates. And then for CBE graduates, we have 94% of students who actually managed to get their job within 4 months after graduation, and 55% of them would receive multiple job offers. And how good are our programs? So there are certain ranking systems. So for engineering and technology, NTU is ranked number 4. And in terms of the chemical engineering, we are ranked number 6 in the world. So we don't have a ranking for bioengineering, not because bioengineering is not good, it's just that for bioengineering, it's a relatively new field. So there isn't a ranking system existing yet for bioengineering. So I mentioned a little bit on the curriculum, not the curriculum, the programs, but there are also other opportunities that you have within the school, and that would be the academic competition as well as the overseas programs that would be beyond the typical lecture and tutorials. So for this, I will let Professor Tan Ming Hao to share more about these in his sharing later on. And then we team up with the Career Attachment Office, not just to find you the internship positions, but we also arrange with the interacting sessions with the industry partners so that you can talk to them and see what they are looking for in their hires and how you can prepare yourself better during your 4 years of study at CCEB. Okay, so this will be also what some of the learning experiences you can have. We have kimchi making, we can have food waste conversion. And again, all this I will let Professor Tan Ming Hao to share on this at a later time. So I just want to do a quick sharing on the actual curriculum. Not to worry about all the name of these courses, but essentially what I wanted to highlight is that in many of these courses, they are quite the fundamentals. So you will not be able to directly apply this knowledge in a particular industry or particular job. But instead, you can think of these as Lego pieces. You'll be taking the bits and pieces from each of this course and then put it all together. And then it will be applicable to a vast variety of jobs that you'll be doing in the industry. And if you look at it, we also have a lot of these options in the year 3 and year 4, which you'll be doing your broadening and deepening electives based on whether you want to have a broader knowledge or a deeper knowledge in a particular area. So for chemical and biomolecular engineering, it would be of similar setting. So the year 2 will be more on the chemical engineering principles, and then year 3 and year 4 would be for you to decide on the specializations as well as the elective courses. So the last slide I wanted to show would be the minors that are available. So I mentioned that these minors would be just courses that you can take using your BDE options. And as long as you have fulfilled the requirement at the point of graduation, then you can apply for a particular minor. So you don't have to decide it now. And I show this just to make you aware of the options that you can have in these minors so that you can make your selections at a later time. So with this, I would be happy to answer more questions in the Q&A sessions afterwards. And I do hope to be able to see you in CCEB this year or 2 years later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Raymond, for the sharing. So we are now move on to the sharing by Professor Tan Ming Hao. So he will be sharing more on the student life and what you can expect from being a CCEB student in our school. Prof. Tan, please.
Hello, everyone. Okay, happy to see so many young faces or so many of you. Let me start by sharing screen first. Are you seeing the full screen or the presenter view?
Full screen.
Full screen, is it? Okay. All right, great. So yeah, so basically now I'm going to share a bit about the, what are some of the things that you can do when you are, not taking classes or doing your homework or studying for your exams. Okay, so basically we have, all sorts of student clubs or students interest groups that you can participate in. And then we also have some competitions that students can participate in and win prizes. And then I'll share a bit about our engagement with the industry and how we try to keep students relevant to the needs of the industry. And then I'll touch a bit on what kind of academic supports and student care that we have in our school, and then I will close with our student lounge. Okay, so first of all, our student clubs. So in every school in NTU, we will have a club. So of course, in our school, we will also have our, currently it's called the SCBE club, but coming August, it will be renamed as CCEB. So this is pretty much a student-driven club where the committee is pretty much elected or voted in by students yourselves. And it serves as a very important communication channel between faculty and students. So for example, I communicate quite regularly with the president of the CCEB club or SCB club, so to discuss, for example, what activities we should have and how the students are doing and so on. As the club organizes all sorts of things. For example, before COVID, there's the sports day. And then every semester, we will always have exam welfare. And there are all sorts of ad hoc competitions, like the trivial hunts last semester. And then this semester, I think there's going to be a photographic hunt and the treasure hunts, and so on. Okay, so besides the CCEB club, we also have a overseas community involvement program where students go to regional countries like Myanmar to help out in the local communities. For example, by providing lessons to the children there, or trying to helping to improve the local infrastructure, typically in more rural and poorer communities. So of course, with COVID, it's not possible for the students to go overseas. So last December, they were holding workshops to impart life skills and other important skills to disadvantaged children. Okay, so this is a program that helps students to be plugged into the community. Okay, so then we also let our students organize the freshman orientations, which we call NUEVE. Okay, so this freshman orientation is important because it helps to transition freshmen into NTU, allows the freshmen to interact more with their seniors, understand how the curriculum is like, what if they need help, who they can turn to. And the orientation program is also important to make friends that you will probably hang out with for the next 4 years of your college life. And then starting AY22, we are also going to implement a new house system whereby all undergraduates, whether regardless of program, whether you're in CBE, EIE, or CBC, you'll be distributed, separated into houses where you can play games and score points and so on. And so I think that will be something that will be quite fun for the undergraduate students as well. Okay, so that's the orientation program. And that's beyond just the CCEB club. We have a bunch of student-initiated interest groups. Okay, so one of them is the ANATA, or short for Analytics and Data. So we are aware that there are a bunch of students who are really keen in data science and computing. So they come together to organize programming workshops, for example, on machine learning, on data visualizations, on Python programming, so on and so forth. So that the like-minded students can get plugged into data science and gain some proficiency in this very important topic. So beyond Enata, we also have a pretty well equipped makerspace with some of state-of-the-art 3D printers. And so students can basically go in and 3D print anything they want. For example, you can print a toy car, or last semester I got a bunch of students to 3D print or prototype a device for diagnostic assay for COVID. And so this is something that's if it's basically up to the students' creativity to print whatever comes to mind. And then the students involved in Makerspace also hold workshops to teach useful things like how do you use Arduino and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is the Makerspace, and then another student-initiated activity which is quite popular is the Zymergy Guild. Okay, so this is the fermentation club where the students get to brew whatever they want. So of course, beer is very popular. But then if you want to do something else besides beer, you are also very welcome. And then I understand that some students have been experimenting with different flavors of kombucha. And then I also heard that some students have been trying to make kimchi, which is apparently very tasty. So it's up to your creativity as to what exactly you want to ferment, and then you can even pretend to make your own label. As you can see here, you can basically stick your own labels onto glass bottles and pretend that you're selling your own beer. And we also have mid-size bioreactors for students to use if you decide that you want to try scaling up, from just a pantry level fermentation to something at a larger volume, and potentially explore whether you are able to subsequently commercialize your new beer flavor or something like that. Okay, so beyond Zymergy Guild, we have another student-initiated activity called the food waste conversions. So this is driven by students who are very concerned about the environmental impact of food waste. So we all know that in hawker centers and food courts, very often we have a lot of leftover food. And what we know, or the students have found out, is that there's this particular insect called the black soldier fly, where the larvae are very hungry eaters, and they can basically chomp up all sorts of food waste at very rapidly, and they can eat several times their body weights. So then what we have done is we have built a tent on the balcony of our school to house all these trays of larvae, and then every semester the students will collect tons of food waste from around campus and feed to this larvae as a means to help mitigate some of the excess food waste on campus. So what the bottom line here that I'm trying to get at is that many of these activities are initiated by students. So basically, if you come up with some fun idea that you want to try, we'll be happy to seed fund and see what we can do to help you carry out your desired activity. Okay, so for example, back to the food waste conversion project. So one thing that's that we are trying to implement this semester is we are trying to genetically engineer the black soldier fly so that they can become super larvae, eating a lot more food waste than what they currently are capable of. So it will be interesting to see how this works out. And then another example is that last semester, one of the freshmen actually came to us and tell us, and basically said that she knows how to convert spent cooking oil into soap, and she's interested to try doing that in school. And so, we gave her some funds, to her and her friends to carry out this soap making activity. And then there are also, previously I talked about the makerspace. So recently some students mentioned, well, if we have a makerspace, why don't we also have a biomakerspace? And I thought that was a great idea because some of the top research universities, like for example MIT, they do have a biomakerspace where students can play around with and try to engineer living systems and biomolecules to produce whatever they think they want to make. So it can be any value-added chemical, it can be some food ingredients, some flavor that they like, or some valuable proteins. Then basically, we want to be able to provide the facility or the equipment for students to do that. And so we're actually in the process of setting up the biomaker space. And then yet another initiative that's student driven is what I call CCEB CAS. Basically, we have a student who came to us and said that he has been very active, especially he did his national service and he was very active in doing volunteering work, and he's interested in continuing all this volunteering work in NTU, and then so he wanted to gather kind of like a movement to for us to better engage the community, and so I thought that's a meaningful activity to pursue. So then we are trying to get this CCEB CARES program off the road, get going on it. So it's called CCEB CARES after our national, everything in Singapore has a CARES behind it, like SG CARES and West Coast CARES and East Coast CARES. So then here we have a CCEB CARES, and hopefully this will help our students to be more plugged into the community. So for example, we are currently in discussion with the Choa Chu Kang Town Council to see how we can partner with them for some activities as well. Okay, so that's talking about the students, some of the student activities that we have going on or are trying to get going. And then next, I would like to share some of the interesting competitions that students have been engaged in. So one of the competitions that has been ongoing for a number of years now is this Chemicar competition. So this Chemicar idea was first booted by AICHE, which is the American Institute of Chemical Engineers, where they wanted to let undergraduate students design and construct a vehicle that is powered by a chemical energy source. Okay, and then this vehicle has to be able to transport a specified load over a certain distance, and then when it reaches its destination, it has to stop right at the finishing line. Okay, so here you can see that our students are really very creative. Then they can basically have fun experimenting and building whatever contraptions they can come up with, and they can also think of various chemical reactions that they want to carry out to power their vehicles as well. Okay, so then another competition that we have on a regular annual basis now is a beer brewing competition. So this has always been traditionally quite popular with students. So then here is where students come together in groups and try to concoct their own tasty unique beer. And this competition has also quite a bit of interest from the industry. So many of our prizes are actually industry sponsored, and the judges can also be from the industry. And the reason why they are industry people are interested is I asked the one of the judges, and then he basically said that he's very happy to come and be a judge, because then he can taste all the new flavors, and then if there's anything that he likes, he may potentially sell it in his own pub. So then I thought that is quite interesting, because then we are actually doing something that the industry is actually interested in. So this is the beer brewing competition, and then and another competition that we have been participating in for quite a number of years since 2015 is this iGEM synthetic biology competitions. So this competition, I think, was first started maybe around in 2004 from MIT and Stanford, but it has since ballooned and expanded quite significantly. So today, the over 300 major research universities from around the world will gather, will send teams of undergraduate students to Boston around November, where each team will present a project that's related to synthetic biology that they have been working on over the past 9 months to a year. So then we have been doing this, as I said, for quite a number of years, and the students are free to think of whatever they want to engineer. So for example, one year we had a group of students engineering Shigella bacteria to improve electricity production in the microbiofuel cell. And then we also have students trying to engineer new CRISPR tools for mammalian cell engineering. And this activity actually is very meaningful because it gives students not only an experience in doing research, but then two, also very often the students will invent something new, and then we actually do go ahead and patent some of the inventions, and that is very good for the students because when they graduate, their CV will have not only research experience, but also they can have patents on the CV, which makes them more attractive to prospective employers. Okay, so this is the iGEM SynBio competitions, and then like to move on to how we how close we are to the industry. And actually we do monitor industry trends very closely, and we do keep track of what our government is thinking about. And so some of you may probably be aware that the Ministry of Trade and Industry has released 23 different industry transformation maps, probably I think 2 or 3 years ago by now. And in it, it maps out what are the different areas that Singapore is very interested in investing in moving forward for the next decade or so. And then some of these industries are very relevant to CCEB. For example, in the energy and chemicals space, they see a lot of growth potential there. And then similarly for healthcare, like health tech and food manufacturing, which our graduates are trained for the jobs in those industry sectors. So then we also talk a lot with EDB as well, and basically, we need to make sure that our graduates are employable after they come to our school for an undergraduate degree. So then, as you can see, the EDB is pretty confident that all these different sectors are doing tremendously well and will continue to be key drivers of Singapore's economic growth in the coming decades, not only for energy and chemicals, but also for pharma, biotech, medtech. And then, we are also moving into not just the traditional, chemical space, like the petrochemicals, but we are also thinking about renewable energy, sustainable way of productions, and so on and so forth. Okay, so then we do keep a very close tabs on what the industry is doing. And the career prospects for our graduates is actually very good. So these are some of the recent big investments by some of the large MNCs around the world. For example, Total is a very large French energy company, I think founded in the 1920s. And so they basically have made Singapore their regional headquarters, and their lubricants blending plant in Tuas is the largest and most modern in the world. Okay, so this is just a couple of examples, and the next few slides have more examples. So you can see here that there's all sorts of companies that have decided that Singapore is a very important node in the region. So not just for the chemical space, but there's also other companies in other industry sectors as well, such as MedTech. So Perkin Elmer has also opened up a large instrument manufacturing facility. And then, of course, with COVID, we see quite a number of startups spring up, right? So the one of the more up and coming startup from NTU is Silver Factory, which basically made the Singapore's one of the first breath analyzer for detecting COVID-19 in your breath. So then the Silver Factory, for example, is hiring very aggressively now. And then beyond COVID, so Singapore has also been investing quite a lot in food research. Okay, so beyond just the standards, the research institutes, you also can see quite a number of food-related startups expanding and also drawing a lot of investor funding, which in turn translates to a lot of job opportunities. For example, things like Shiok Meats or Perfect Day. Perfect Day is the dairy company that's trying to produce dairy proteins without using animals. So this basically augurs very well for our graduates, because they will be trained to take on some of the jobs in these expanding companies. So then we also try to actively engage the companies. So we have industry visits, and then we invite alumni back for sharing. We want to make sure that, okay, if alumni are working in different companies, they not only share what's going on, what's work life like in the companies, but in case there's any job openings where they work, they can immediately think about our fresh graduates. So for example, just last month, I brought a bunch of undergraduate students to Insecta to see, how they rear their flies and how they extract, how they convert their larvae and flies into animal feed and fertilizers. So this is how we try to make sure that our students are actively plugged into the latest industry trends. Okay, so talking. So after now that I've talked about the job prospects and all that, and then I would like to quickly share about what kind of academic support and student care we have in our school. So we have in-house our pastoral care manager who will look after the well-being of every student. So if you are stressed out or you have emotional issues, family issues, you don't have to hide in misery. You can approach us, and then we can see how we can help you. And then we also have a peer tutoring scheme where weaker students in particular subjects can look for help. Basically, we will ask those students who are stronger in particular subjects to tutor and guide the weaker ones, so that the weaker students can also catch up and so on. So then in CCEB or SCB, we are very serious about taking care of our students and listening to the problems that students may have, and we are actively soliciting feedback. So then I have also been holding quite a number of coffee chats with students to hear what are the problems that the students may have. For example, recently we were told that there's not enough places in our school for students to do their homework and study. So then immediately we look for available space, and then you can see here that we have built into some empty spaces of our schools, study cubicles, which we will soon open to students so that they can do their homework and study for their exams over there. So just to conclude, I'd like to leave you with our very nice student lounge, where it is very well equipped with all sorts of games and recreational activities, and occasionally we will also stock it up with snacks and food. And this is where students can go to relax, hang out with their friends, and basically have some fun. And we also periodically have activities that allow students to intermingle and and engage faculty, so that we can be a more tightly knit family rather than having a barrier between student and faculty members. Yeah, and so with that, I would like to say that I hope that we will be able to welcome many of you to CCEB, and then we look forward to having you join us for your undergraduate education. And that's all I have, I think. And if please feel free to follow us on social media. So we are on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Telegram, and I believe we are also now on Twitter. So please follow us. We are always updating our social media, so you can see what's happening in our school. And feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions as well. And that's all I have, and happy to take questions later in the Q&A.
Thank you so much, Prof. Tan, for the sharing. So together with us today, we also have Professor Manozit, and he will be sharing on the research opportunities and also industry partnership in our school. So if you are interested and would like to find out more, you can join the breakout room for the sharing session by Professor Manozit later. So next, we will now share a short video for you to find out more on the NTU CCEB experiences. So in this video, you can also explore one of the research module offered to our BIE student, which is the medical device design.
So in today's world, knowledge is very common. You can do a Google search and find a lot of information. So it's not about the content we teach them, it's about how to learn new things. And once you know how to learn new things, you can always adapt yourself to gain new knowledges or new areas. So in our school in biomedical engineering, we have different research directions, from imaging to biomaterials to biodevices, and the labs we have designed for the students that expose them to many different areas. So for example, in medical device design, they are exposed to medical devices. There are biomaterials related labs, there are anatomy and physiology related labs. So all these labs help them to understand many different areas, and depending on the students' need and students' interest, they can later on choose what kind of areas they're going to work on.
So in this project, it's called Medical Device Design Project, we have a group of 10 members, which comprises of hardware team, software team, and as well as design team.
Through this module, we have learned to design a uroflowmetry device to record the uroflowmetry data for patients with LUTS, also known as lower urinary tract symptoms.
We actually have to design a ECG circuit. This is a device which you commonly see in the hospital. And for this case, we actually have to analyze the circuit and as well as troubleshoot it and come up with a new and innovative design. And I believe these skills are actually transferable into the 21st century workforce.
In the medical device design module, I have developed a mobile application to allow users to track their urinary behavior throughout the day. As such, this module has ultimately provided me with more opportunities in my future career in the bioengineering industry.
So my team came up with this design after many rounds of prototyping, and after that we 3D printed this and we fitted it onto different toilet bowls. The idea of this design is that it covers 2/3 of the toilet bowl and leaving 1/3 space at the back for defecation. So we have these hooks that allows us to install the device into the toilet bowl, and then we can secure it with the toilet seat. The patient has to just void normally or naturally into the toilet, and then the data will be collected using the flow meter below. So the void volume and the void flow rate will be collected, and afterwards these data will be sent to the doctors, where the doctors will use the data to diagnose if the patient have any lower urinary tract diseases.
Such module exposes us to real life problems and encourages us to actively contribute back to our society. Thus, any success brings a lot of sense of accomplishment, as it could be a crucial step towards a new discovery in this industry.
Hope you all have enjoyed the video. So if you'd like to find out more video of our school, you can scan the QR code on the top right of the slide and join our CCEB YouTube channel. So let me now introduce our student, Maya. So he's a Year 4 BIE student and will be sharing on his student life in CCEB. Maya, please.
Hi everybody, hope you're having a great afternoon. so far. So as mentioned, I'll be sharing a student's perspective of life in NTU and SCB as I know it, and CCEB as you will know it next year. Okay, so going on, so as mentioned, I'm in year 4 in my final year of final semester, and I graduated from NUS High. I was also a group leader for Nueve in 2019. Nueve is actually our freshman orientation camp as shared by Prof. Han. I was also the SCB Club Social Director in year 1 and year 2. Currently, I'm also the NTU Model United Nations Secretary General, and I completed 2 exchanges, one in Zagreb School of Economics and Management, and one at NUS. Lastly, I also completed my professional internship at Dan Toksing Hospital. So going on, these are just some photos that I have to share with you regarding the freshman orientation camp Nueve back when I was in year 1. So this is us at Sentosa. This is us at the stairs in between North Spine and South Spine of NTU. And this is at the NIE fields. So as you can see, obviously, all of these are pre-COVID photos where we have a big group of us actually just enjoying, having fun, and a lot of activities that were planned by our seniors. And honestly, it's a really, really good experience. And I would suggest that if you do get into CCEB, that you do join Nueve, because not only do you have friends from a social perspective, but you also have peers who you can look up to and share your answers, share assignments, or just ask for help. This is actually a photo of our entire cohort when we were in year 1 at Sentosa. And this is another picture where this was when I was in year 2 as the group leader. And this was when the freshmen came in, and this time around it was our turn to host them for the freshman orientation camp. I was also the social director when I was in year 1 and year 2. And as the social director, our portfolio actually initiated some new events. These were night cycling, game night, cocktail workshop, and trivia night. In addition, we also helped out with the events SCB Day, which is like our main carnival sorts of a day that we have in SCBE. That's like the exam welfare day. So these are just some games that we prepared for SCB Day, because SCB Day is like sort of like a carnival where we have games, food, photo booths, lucky draw, and many more other things for everybody to just come and enjoy and have a great time, release the stress of the academic semester at that point. So some of the games we created here were like a ping pong tic-tac-toe. So instead of like a normal tic-tac-toe, you're supposed to throw the ball into the tic-tac-toe grid made out of glass, as you can see in the second picture. This is also us prototyping another game called Sticky Balls, inspired by the Jimmy Fallon show. So we just were creating a shirt which has Velcro, so that each of us face off with each other and try to get as many balls stuck on the opponent as possible. I also conducted a cocktail workshop as the social director, where I used my experience as a bartender to share some tips and knowledge into mixology. At this point, COVID had started, so we actually did this via Zoom, and I think we are slowly going back off Zoom and going back into physical activities that I'll be sharing about later. This is another bonding session that we had during my year 1 when as the social committee, and just a photo of us as the main committee in year 2 for SCB Club. I also went for 2 exchanges. So starting off with the first exchange was my summer exchange at the Zagreb School of Economics and Management in Croatia. And this was in between the summer of year 1 and year 2, where I took 2 modules, design thinking and Croatian studies. So during any exchange, when you go from NTU to whether it be locally or overseas, summer, winter, semester, it doesn't matter. As long as it's an exchange, all your modules are graded on a pass-fail basis. So what this means is that you don't have any letter grade, so it doesn't impact your GPA. And what this allows is for you to actually enjoy the learning rather than focusing on every mark that you have. And especially because you're in a new environment, it's a nice way for you to just adapt and learn things from a different perspective than you would normally be exposed to in NTU. So during this exchange, it was a little special because it was a proper program that the school had. So there were people from many different countries. So this was us actually when we graduated. graduated of sorts after the 3-week program at Zagreb, where we had, in this photo, students from Morocco, France, Mexico, and Singapore. This is another picture of us Singaporeans just roaming around the city center. And another photo of a few of us exchange students from around the globe after a night. And this was actually us Singaporeans, 4 of us actually, just roaming around another city and actually going island hopping around those islands near that city. So it is quite a fun experience because I think Croatia is a very unique country. Something like Singapore, it's by the sea, but except most of the country is by the sea. So, and there's a lot of different activities over there, a lot of different kinds of fun that you don't normally see in Singapore. So I would suggest that if you can, then please do go for an exchange during your time in NTU because it changes your perspective into life in general. But since there was COVID, I could not go for a proper exchange. So I went for a partial exchange as well at NUS, where I did 3 different modules, 2 of which were also actually my major prescribed electives, or major PE for short. And these were quantitative physiology principles in bioengineering and engineering biology. So what is interesting about this was that, again, because it was pass-fail, I think I got to understand differences between NUS and NTU when it comes to the way they teach, from the content to the teaching style to the professors themselves. And I was actually genuinely able to enjoy learning because being constantly having to, you don't have to don't have to worry about all your grades, and instead you're just over here, talking to new people, and even like by group projects, and I don't really know these people, but it's a nice way to understand how the different systems actually work, despite the differences actually. For my internship, I actually completed it at Tan Tock Seng Hospital. So this internship is actually part of our curriculum, as I think shared by Prof. Raymond. So this professional internship that I did was at Tan Tock Seng under the Management Internship Program, or MIP for short. So it was quite different from what I've done during my time in this degree, where almost nothing was similar. There was almost nothing that I could use from a bioengineering degree into this internship itself. And some of the tasks that I did are actually listed over here. And if you look at the second task, COVID-19 vaccination clinic, just to share more about it, it's actually, I think, one of the projects I did over there that I'm most proud of, where I was actually part of the front-end operations team in charge of talking to all the different parties involved, such as the nurses, the patient services assistants, doctors, management staff, IT staff, the patients themselves. And so I think it was a very unique exposure that I got that I normally wouldn't get during my time in NTU. So to be able to step out of my comfort zone and to learn more about the management side of healthcare was quite a unique experience indeed. Because I was working in a hospital and interacting with patients a lot, there were not many pictures I could take because other than the patients, I also had confidential data, so nothing much I could share. But just a few pictures over here. This is actually the office building at Tan Tock Seng. So if you've ever been to Tan Tock Seng, it's in the little corner. So if you're able to spot it, then that's great. This is actually one of the patient services assistants, or PSAs for short, sharing about health with other patients. And lastly, this is a picture of us on our final day. So us as in some of the interns who, after, of course, at the end of our final day, we had to give up our access card. So just to end off my sharing, this is a picture of me and my team during the beer brewing competition that was held just last month in January. And this is where we won 3rd. And another picture of us during inter-school games with a different bunch of students. We represented SCBE in the inter-school games, and among, I think, 16 faculties that we have in NTU, we came in 3rd as well. And this is also in January. So I think my time in NTU was slightly disrupted by COVID. But that being said, I think the professors, the school, and the student bodies actually did a great job to transition things online or show the experience in a different way. But I think life is slowly coming back to normal, as can be seen by these 2 photos, where we're having activities like captain's ball and beer brewing held physically, and this was maybe unthinkable 6-7 months ago. So I hope that by the time you guys come in, you guys will also have an opportunity to experience the way it should be experienced. And for sure, I think as a student, you have all the different choices to experience something that you would truly be interested in. So I was interested in both sports and beer brewing, and I could take part. And if you have different interests, whether it be academic, innovation, or anything else, even the community-based project that we have, I think not just in SCB but in NTU, we have so many opportunities for every student to truly enjoy and pursue what they truly pursue what they want to do. And so with that, I've come to the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya, for that sharing. If you guys feel inspired by him, you can join our school to, get in touch with all this like student life that will help you enrich your university life in NTU. Yeah. So not forgetting our audience that's watching this on YouTube, feel free to join our Q&A breakout session via the link under the description box below to have your questions answered. Yeah, and now I'll just be sharing. Yeah, I'll be sharing with you the people that we have in our breakout rooms. So first, we have our class of 2021 alumni, both bioengineering and chemical and biomolecular engineering. So we have Zhiming and Ki, who was from CBE. Zhiming is the valedictorian class of 2021, and he is now working as a management associate at Tan Tock Seng Hospital. And we have Ki, who is working as a supply chain specialist at the Sherwin-Williams Singapore. And we have Changi and Tekla from BIE. Changi is working as a research assistant at the National Skin Center, while Tekla is working as a product process engineer at Edward Life Sciences. Okay, now we have our student ambassadors for the bioengineering program. So first we have Ivan, who is year 2, Krisha and Melissa, both in year 3. And our student ambassadors for the chemical and biomolecular engineering, we have Rachel, Pihan, Daniel, and Jason, who are all in year 1, and Chester, who is in year 4. Now we have our student ambassadors for the second majors. We have Gavin, who has a second major in business, Wen-Ti, who also has a second major in business, and Chun-Ting, who has a second major in food science and technology. And last but not least, we have our student ambassadors for the international and scholarship program. First, we have Nibata, who took the international A-level, Karina, who took the Indonesian national curriculum, and Maya, who has the NTU scholarship. Yeah. So now Singyi will guide you guys through how to use the Zoom breakout room.
Okay, Nicole. Up next, we will be proceeding to the Q&A session in the respective breakout rooms. We have a total of 6 breakout rooms, namely Professor's Room with Professor Raymond Lau, Professor Tan Ming Hao, and Professor Manojit. We're also very honored to have our alumni back with us today for this Q&A breakout room session. So please approach them to ask how the transition is like from CCEB to working life. We also have breakout rooms for bioengineering, BIE, chemical biomolecular engineering, CBE, second majors, and international and scholarship rooms. When the Zoom breakout rooms is open after this presentation, you can view the breakout room icon located at the bottom of the Zoom toolbar. Kindly click on the room that you wish to join. So feel free to jump around the various breakout rooms to clarify your doubts. If you have trouble joining any of the breakout rooms, please inform us by commenting under the Zoom chat function, and we will allocate you to the respective room you are interested in. For our audience watching this virtual talk live on YouTube, feel free to join our Q&A breakout session as well by the link under the description box you have to have your question answered. Before we open the breakout rooms, feel free to visit us in the open house virtual world, which happens now all the way until 6 p.m. today. Continue chatting with our student ambassadors should you have any more queries after this session. Also, join us at our upcoming physical tour on 26th and 27th February. The sign-up form is located under our Linktree website, and this QR code will be shown on the top right-hand corner of every single presenter slides in the respective breakout rooms. There are limited slots for this physical tour, so do sign up fast. Also, after the sharing session, if you wish to chat with our student ambassador and professor more, please feel free to connect with us via the QR code shown here. This form is also available via our Linktree website located at the top right-hand corner of every presenter's breakout rooms later on. Thank you, and we hope to see you in School of Chemistry, Chemical Engineering and Biotechnology, CCEB. Without further ado, we will start opening the breakout rooms now. Thank you.